We believe that we have finally solved the meaning behind the various colors of Force lightning. Star Wars is known for using color as an indication of significance. A lot of the time, color meanings are spoken of when it comes to lightsabers and kyber crystals. Color even plays a role in blasters, as the hue of their shots can indicate how powerful the gun is or what kind of gas it is utilizing. But one aspect of the Star Wars lore and coloration that has been shrouded in mystery for years is Force lightning. Typically, Sith lightning will manifest itself as a sort of a blue or a purple, and with that being the most common. It's only in special scenarios though, where we get to see other shades of lightning. For the longest time, it has either been ambiguous as to what the colors of the Force ability represented, but after some much in-depth research, we believe that we have gotten as close as possible to solving the meaning of the Force lightning colors. As usual, we will be mainly exploring the EU or Star Wars Legends, but we will include Star Wars canon when it becomes relevant. But before we dive in, the thunder in the clouds booms out a terrifying insight. Many who are watching have not yet subscribed. Once you listen to today's holocron, be sure to select what color of Force lightning you prefer and use it to electrify the subscribe button so that you too will share in our vast knowledge of the Force. Now, make sure that you aren't wearing anything metal, because it's time to learn the secrets of the Force lightning colors. To preface the video, we have discovered that Force lightning is colored differently not because of the effect that it has, but because of the source from which it is drawn. Most variants of Force lightning have the same or similar effect with differing power levels, but we found that it's very difficult to put these in differing levels of power. It's not as easy as being able to put them in a tier list from least to the most potent, as the power of Force lightning heavily depends on its wielder. While there are some that we have officially determined to be weaker than others, by and large, it is the user who determines their own lightning strength and potency. Having said that, the color can be used to categorize the source by which the user is drawing their strength. This will become more clear as we progress through the list and the video. We also want to make it very clear that the creators in both canon and legends like to play it fast and loose with the colors of Force lightning, so there will be inconsistencies. But we believe that we have been able to accomplish the closest thing to a comprehensible guide using the lore and what is specified within it. So without further ado, let us begin. It's easiest to begin with blue, since this is the standard color for almost all wielders. Blue is the entry point of Sith lightning, and the most fundamental of beginnings. This demonstrates Force lightning in its purest form, the ability to manifest sparks of pure dark side energies, which attack a victim and cause immeasurable pain. According to some sources and legends, in order to properly manifest lightning, one has to be on the receiving end of it at least once to take the energy into their body. But this has not always been shown to be true, as many are born with a natural aptitude for the ability. The function of Force lightning as a concept is the user focuses all of their hatred towards a target and manifests the dark side in its purest of forms. It is essentially the way of hating someone to death. Though with blue lightning, it usually takes quite a bit to actually kill someone, leading to a slow and a painful death. This ability functions by siphoning one's energy, like continuously feeding lightning itself when the user feeds off of the pain of the victim that they are experiencing. It doesn't seem as though there is a limit to how long a Sith can manifest lightning once it is applied to a target, as they can keep looping the feed and output of pain indefinitely until the victim dies. Count Dooku's blue lightning wasn't unobservably potent as the other Sith Lords, despite his regular usage of the power. Dooku usually employed his lightning in quick bursts in order to stun or torture his enemies. This helped Dooku regularly when dealing with multiple enemies, as he could isolate his targets by using his lightning on their allies, and then whittle them down one by one with Makashi's blade work following. Originally, we believed that blue lightning was the only lower voltage variation, but that isn't quite true with Darth Plagueis' explanation, as Plagueis is also noted to have blue lightning. And yet Plagueis was noted as being able to boil the blood of his victims inside of their bodies. The same was true with Darth Malgus, who once instantly killed 3 Jedi at once with a stream of his own blue Force lightning. In both of these scenarios, these were feats pulled off rather negligently. The best that we have theorized is that blue is not only the basic application, but the unfocused version. When higher level Sith Lords utilize blue, it is a pure and a raw expression of their power, without them putting a ton of effort into it. Darth Sidious is also seen using blue lightning, but only when he's not putting his full focus and power into the ability, because whenever he does, we get into our next color. Purple, or indigo lightning, is what we have figured to be the high concentration color. In almost every case that purple lightning is displayed, it outperforms blue. This was a color wielded most often by Sidious, Bane, and Valkorion, though Valkorion himself has also wielded red Force lightning before, which we will get into later. Purple, though, has repeatedly been shown to indicate a high level of mastery and focus, this betraying a sense that it consumes more concentration than blue does. Simply put, when a Sith Lord takes things seriously and puts their back into their work, we get purple. Darth Bane never played around with Force lightning whatsoever. Anytime he used it, it was always purple, and it always killed on contact. Darth Sidious most notoriously had some of the strongest lightning in the lore, and had perfected it to its highest degree. Even when his lightning was blue, it had enough power to nearly overwhelm Mace Windu's Vapad, which is stated in the novel for Revenge of the Sith, and is confirmed. It also flung Yoda across the room, and stalemated his two Terminus. In the EU, following the events of the Battle of Endor, Luke was diagnosed with skeletal calcification from the exposure to Sidious's power. The lethal dose of Force lightning had given him a condition which caused sudden, rapid accumulation of minerals in the bloodstream and onto the bones. The side effects included dizziness, blurred vision, muscle spasms, and muscle weakness. Luke also suffered seizures and was hoverchair bound for almost a year after this exposure. Had it not been for the Bacta therapy and the Force, this condition would have been a permanent one. And of course, anytime Emperor Valkorion touched someone with lightning, the effects were devastating. He overwhelmed a reborn Revan's two Terminus, and caused his metal mask to melt onto his flesh, leaving permanent scars of the outline of his face. When Valkorion's spirit was inhabiting another's body, his power was hampered, and yet, a stray bolt managed to short-circuit a military-grade starship, causing it to fall out of the sky. This hadn't even been a focus blast of lightning, but simply a stray discharge for its real target. Of course, we have to attribute these feats to Valkorion's insane power, and not necessarily purple lightning itself. But the point is, these were all done when the user was concentrating on a specific target with lethal intent. But now let's talk about red. The color is perhaps one of the most confusing, which conflicts with almost everything that we've stated so far. In Legends continuity, red is an indication of excessive power in the dark side. Originally, we had held firm the belief that one had to be born with the ability to utilize red Force lightning, but it appears as if we were mistaken. Red lightning can be achieved, though the methods are unknown and its potency is questionable. It is an extremely rare ability wielded by the likes of Darth Decius, Darth Tenebris, Darth Vitiate on a single occasion, and the son of Mortis. Red lightning is implied to be the highest degree and the purest representation of the dark side and its power. This, however, makes us wonder why Darth Sidious never achieved Crimson Lightning. But from what we've observed, he didn't really need to. Sidious's purple lightning outperformed all shown applications of red, indicating that he had grown even beyond that color. Even Valkorion, whose power was nearly godlike, very rarely ever used red Force lightning, more often than he used purple, albeit his lightning was a much brighter purple than Sidious's, closing more in on magenta. The only explanation of it that we can get is when Tenebris described it as wielding a very rare ability of red Force lightning. In canon, the only two times we see red lightning is the son of Mortis and Darth Vader's spirit body within his visions. The son's lightning was powerful enough to drop everyone that it touched, almost killing the father. Darth Vader wielded his red lightning in a vision. This perhaps indicates that in his purest, most primordial manifestation of the dark side, something only special beings can learn to manifest and achieve, that his lightning is red. This of course would be the canon explanation, so it would not explain why Darth Decius and Darth Tenebris had red Force lightning. The Force Unleashed game also explores a non-canon alternate universe Luke Skywalker, where he falls to the dark side while fighting Starkiller. When that happens, Luke too manifests red lightning. Perhaps this also indicates that if Luke had fully succumbed to the dark side, then he would have been able to be an even greater applicant of Force lightning than Palpatine or any other Sith. And yet, in his fight with Starkiller, Starkiller beats him using his regular Force lightning. As you can see, red is the most difficult one to quantify, since its representations have been so skewed across both continuities. It's generally accepted that it is exceptionally powerful and very rare, but perhaps not the ultimate form of the ability, since it has been outperformed before, unless we're talking about the Sun, or the spirit form of Darth Vader. But now that we've discussed Sith lightning, what about the Jedi? The Jedi utilize orange or yellow, and this is typically associated with skill of electric judgment. Luke and Leia once manifested what appeared appeared to be gold lightning, but we don't believe that this was a separate power, but actually an instinctive form of electric judgment. This was a power utilized by Plo Koon, and one not really recognized officially by the Jedi High Council, who feared it. This is possibly the weakest of the form, since its effects are non-lethal, and it purely meant to incapacitate, not kill. Electric judgment is essentially the Jedi equivalent of a taser. Plo Koon discovered this ability draws not upon the dark side, such as emotions of hate, but rather from the light, with emotions of justice. He had discovered the power when he instinctively used it against a kidnapper who was fleeing with a small child, and was holding a blaster to her head. Plo had been chasing him, and knew that if he didn't do something quick, the girl would be killed. Without hesitation, he lifted his hand and acted on pure instinct and devotion. Orange sparks burst from his hands in a single blast, dropping the kidnapper instantly. Plo mentioned that he had no desire to continue using the ability once he had successfully stunned his target, and he had no malice or hatred towards the man at all. Electric judgment is still considered a gray area by the Jedi, and it's not something they teach openly or encourage, as its applications could indeed lead one to the dark side. However, they did have Plo Koon make an entry about it in the Great Holocron, and they did have him meditate on his feelings about using this new ability. However, even after a deep soul-searching session, Plo Koon felt no indication that the power he used was dark side in origin. The Keldor people are known for seeking morality in terms of black and white. They do not give a lot of room for different shades. Either something is good or it isn't. So Plo Koon's judgment on the matter was sound, and we believe that he could have unknowingly inherited this ability from his people. Speaking of which, the next color that we want to explore is white Force lightning. The Keldor are guided by the Baron Do sages, who focus entirely on the light side of the Force, and are usually even non-combative. Plo trained with the Baron Do sages to receive their wisdom and knowledge of esoteric abilities, and during his time as a Jedi, he used them to great effect. Jacen Solo would later do the same thing before his fall into Darth Kaitis. The Baron Do had a system of techniques that they called the Hasat Dur, which translates to lightning rod. The family of abilities focused on suffusing the body with low levels of electromagnetic radiation. This gave one command over electrical pulses. Utilizing this power as a master enables one to emit white lightning. The color does not draw upon any sort of emotion, but it is simply based out of the Hasat Dur technique. It's very possible that Plo Koon learned Hasat Dur and unknowingly manifested electric judgment, combining the technique of the Baron Do sages with his own feelings of justice. The first and only time we see white lightning utilized is when Luke Skywalker dueled Koror Zeel, one of the leaders of the Baron Do sages. Zeel, also known as the Hidden One, is one of the only utilizers of white Force lightning that we currently know of in the lore. So white lightning is really one of the rarest. The next one we want to talk about is of course green. The Jedi version is called Emerald Sparks, and it was utilized primarily by none other than Grand Master Luke Skywalker. This is the perfected version of electric judgment. Unlike Plo Koon's power, Emerald Sparks is lethal. Luke had become quite familiar with Force lightning after being pumped with it by Darth Sidious. So drawing upon the light side and feelings of deep necessity, Luke could manifest a light side Force lightning that mercifully kills enemies instantaneously. Grandmaster Luke only ever used this power when it was absolutely necessary, and when he had no other choice but to put his enemy down as quickly as possible. For an unknown reason, lightning was the only Force ability that affected the Yuuzhan Vong, and so Emerald Sparks saw more usage during the Vong War when Luke was actively protecting very young Jedi. Because this power is fatal, Luke takes its usage very seriously, and it is not a power that he enjoys using. It's also been clear that he doesn't appear to have taught this to anybody. The other version of green lightning is the one used by Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters clan of Dathomir, but this is very obviously based on their own magic. Talzin's lightning is incredibly powerful, as she held her own in a beam struggle against Darth Sidious and Dooku in the Son of Dathomir. We do have to note though that she was unable to overcome Sidious's lightning. And finally, we have what may be the strangest color of them all, black Force lightning. Black has only ever been manifested by two characters in both continuities. Most people will immediately think Jaina Solo, but Jaina was not the first. When she was only a toddler, one other used the ability before she did. Kip Durin. During his early years as a Jedi, Kip would fall to the dark side and accept tutelage from the spirit of Exar Kun. Over the course of months, Exar would teach Kip how to use many esoteric dark side techniques, and even some Sith magic. Kip was able to create an aura of unease around him to drive away natural creatures and predators. He could read ancient Sith texts and could even use Force Blast, which he did once on accident, resulting in him incinerating a rodent. But among these powers was Ebony Lightning. When Luke confronted him on the roof of the Yavin Temple, Kip used a blast of darkside power to frost over Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and to render it useless. Then the spirit of Exar Kun used his tendrils of darkness to attack Luke, while Kip blasted him in the back with lightning that was described as black cracks in the Force. The Grand Master was dropped quickly under the combined power of Exar Kun's weakened spirit and Kip Duran's black Force lightning. This was a Luke Skywalker in 11 ABY, so not quite Grand Master level, but still very strong and a capable Jedi Knight. Kip would later almost use this ability after he was reformed. He thought he saw the spirit of Exar Kun again and was about to destroy him with the black electricity, but instead, he pulled himself back and refused to use the Sith technique. Judging by the source that Kip learned the power from being Exar, a master of Sith magic, we believe that Black Lightning is a more potent variation of the power derived directly from Sith sorcery and rituals. Just like how White Lightning is simply the color that is used based out of a technique, we believe that this is the dark side version of that same ability. Basically, using sorcery to augment one's Force Lightning to make it stronger and more dark side aligned, if that's even possible. This must have been a technique only known to Exar Kun. It was not utilized by any other Sith until it was taught directly by him to Kip Duran. But what throws a wrench into the very plausible explanation is Jaina Solo. In the Vong War, after her brother Anakin Solo was killed, she began skirting the edges of the dark side. Jaina manifested Black Lightning, which was a powerful enough ability to instantly kill her enemy. She had once even blown a hole straight into the chest of a Yuzhong Vong warrior. Jaina was never taught Sith sorcery and seemed to use the power unconsciously. Each time she used it, she seemed to be surrounded by a dark aura and almost go into a trance-like state. And after it, she always appeared to be surprised and disturbed. She at one point even quoted Kip Duran when using the power, implying that she somehow knew of the ability and subconsciously replicated it. Though this is not explained exactly how she did this. Interestingly, she would end up training under Kip Duran, but he would encourage her to stay far away from this ability. So what we mean to say is that while Black was never explicitly stated to be a Sith power, Jaina Solo somehow was able to use it, and we aren't really sure why. And with that, we want to turn it over to you. We have laid out our findings on each of the colors of Force Lightning, and now it is time to discuss it. Because the colors are used so inconsistently throughout all of the lore, there is always a chance of misinformation being spread around them. The two most controversial here are of course red and black coloration of Force Lightning. But that's why we wanted to get your thoughts and perspectives now that you've heard each one and where they come from. And so, tell us, which color of Force Lightning is your favorite? And if you wielded this awesome power, what color would you wish that it would manifest as? Until next time, my friends, thank you so much for joining us again in the archives here today, and may the Force be with you.